So, it's so bold. Why did not let me do that? Oh, okay, I think that's the first one. Okay, we're on track. Okay, so what is a heritage area mini grant? Are you guys familiar at all with our mini grants? Okay, perfect. Okay.
Barely. Go ahead.
Barely, okay. Okay, so first and foremost, they are non-capital. We fund non-capital projects, including innovative exhibits, tours, marketing, planning, and projects. All of which have to tie into our heritage area management plan, which is basically identified by 4 different themes. Those themes are historic transportation, man and nature, historic recreation, and culture uniqueness. Everything with the heritage area, not just mini grants, but everything revolves around heritage tourism. So all grants are supposed to attract and be designed to bring in heritage tourists, which I don't think is going to be a problem for you guys. The mini grant program is funded by the Mountain Maryland Gateway of the West, which is our local heritage area. And we are funded through the state of Maryland. Maryland Heritage Area Authority. We have so many acronyms. So you had mentioned earlier, Dick, about kind of staying away from grants. And so this one is a great one to start with because everything is handled on the local level. So I'm one phone call away, I'm one email away. You can stop in and see me if you have questions or you need help. That's a huge benefit to a local grant, especially if you're just getting started with them. So that's a good choice if you weren't aware. That's a good one to start with. I want to elaborate a little bit on projects. So the things that we list there that you can fund with a mini grant: innovative exhibits. So probably 75% of the interpretive panels throughout the county have been funded in some way by the heritage area. So that's a no-brainer. Tours, we've done lots of tours, whether it's Google mapping, whether it's a physical tour brochure, that kind of thing. If you're hiring a company to do the tours, all of those types of things. Marketing, we've done lots and lots and lots of marketing funds. And so the only thing with marketing that I tend to see every year that I have to oftentimes correct is we always want to fund things that are permanent. So signage, we don't ever want you to date it. We want you to be able to use it year after year. We just don't really want to fund throwaway type products. Yeah. So we see that more with marketing products than any other thing that we fund. And then projects, I want to mention projects because it actually came to us last year. We had a lot of grant requests come in last year that were kind of off the beaten path that we hadn't seen before. And we kind of, as a local heritage area, had a really tight description on projects. And then when we reached out to MHA and had a more in-depth conversation, they really considered capital as brick and mortar. Anything outside brick and mortar, we can put under projects. Oh. So that opened up a whole new world. And so I just want to make sure, I don't think Kathy's still on, but anybody who might listen to this later, who has done projects with us before, if you have something that you think is borderline, please call me and talk to me about it, because, a lot of times we can make it fit. So
does that apply to, I think it was Mountain Lake Park, did a tent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So we funded a usage of a tent there. We funded a usage of a tent in the Grantsville A&E district for Christmas in the Village.
Okay.
So now that's kind of a throwaway thing, it gets put up, it gets put down. But then, we just ask that, we are recognized as partial funding for that at the event. It's usually at an event type thing that we're doing that. So doing? Going backwards on me. Okay, so who, what, and when? So who is eligible for our grants is pretty simple. It's nonprofit organizations, local jurisdictions. Those are the two entities. We don't go outside of that. Those, either the entity that's requesting the funds or the project has to be within the heritage area boundaries. We'll get into that later. That's a little bit more involved. And I'll show you where to find that. I can tell you guys that the Historical Society is in our boundary, so you don't really have to worry about it. Individuals and businesses with proposals fitting the guidelines may also partnership. So this doesn't necessarily apply to you guys, but at some point you may be approached by an organization that isn't a nonprofit and they're not a local jurisdiction. So they may come to you and say, hey, we have this great project that we want to fund with a heritage area mini grant, but we can't apply for the money. Can we partner with you and you be the lead on the grant proposal? And you can do that. We've done that many times, not here recently, but we've definitely done it.
Okay.
So if it's a project that somebody approached you with that was, beneficial to you guys, then, that's absolutely something you can consider doing.
Okay.
And that gives you a little bit more leverage with your cash match or your in-kind, whatever you're planning on using. So this year, we've actually increased the amount of the ask to 5,000. So we've gone from 2,500 as our max to 3,000 to now 5,000. 5,000 is probably going to be our cap because we're capped at the grant that we fund these through. So 5,000 is probably going to be as much as we ever see until they change our cap. I talked to you earlier a little bit. Grantees must have a 1-to-1 cash or in-kind match, and that can be any combination of the two, which is it's just a newly changed guideline last year or 2 years ago now? Gosh, I think it's 2 years ago we changed that. Yeah. And then important dates. So these dates, that top date sometimes will change. The others are constant. So applications are going to be due August 29th. You have a copy of the application. It's not an enormous application. I fill out like 20 and 30 page applications. So that one's a good one.
Good one to start with.
Yeah. Mid-project reports are due mid-January, January 15th. Mid-project reports, I don't have a form that I have you use because these are very small projects. So usually I check in with you guys. I say, can you send me, it could be a Word document, whatever, photo if necessary. And it's really just to make sure that you're on track. If you're falling way, way behind and you're not going to have your funds expended, then I can go, Dick, you need to spend some money kind of thing. So really we call it a report, but it's kind of a check-in. We'll call it that. And then funds have to be expended by May 15th. And the final report, which I do provide a template for you to use, is June 1. And that gives you about a month between the two to get your receipts and whatever in from anything that you spent there at the end of your grant.
Typically, when is the grant awarded?
Well, okay, so that application deadline of August 29th, whatever we get in, we will review at that point. It's a first come, first served basis. And we turn those around pretty quickly because that's a small application. And so we usually turn those around within 2 weeks.
Okay.
So mid-September.
Oh,
I can't give you an exact date because I have to coordinate with my grants committee on dates to review. And then if we still have funds, then we get into a rolling cycle where we're going to say, okay, we still have, $10,000. We're going to extend this to September 29th and we'll do a second round.
okay.
Obviously, the sooner you get your application in, the less competition you have.
Yeah.
And so when you get to the end and we've only got a couple $1,000s left and you are against 3 other applicants, that's when, it gets a little dicey and sometimes
Okay.
we can't fund everything. So last year we had 17 grant applications. We did fund all of them, but we funded none of them at the full amount because we had so much competition last year. We do have a lot more funds this year. So that's good, but we've also increased the max. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out. This will be the first year with that much money to fund out. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, and then this is the Medusa map, which on here looks like nothing. But okay, so the key to the map is so when you go in, you go to this link, you're going to click on layers, and then you're going to click other MHT database, and then Maryland Heritage Areas. So then what the key to it is you have to zoom in, I mean, obnoxiously, to the point where you can read the street signs in order to see the heritage areas. Like I said,
Yeah.
you guys are in a heritage area, you don't need to worry about it. But there's pink lines going through all the heritage areas. So that's how you identify if you're in a heritage area. Our heritage area, because we have the lake, we have our trails, we have all our waterways. Our heritage area is very, very spread out. Some heritage areas are the town of Baltimore City. It's a little circle. And ours looks like a map itself. So you really, really have to zoom in to see if your location or your project location is going to fall within the heritage area. And so that is obviously a requirement for the grant. Okay, so what makes a great mini grant project? It comes without saying. It seems like common sense, but we go through this every year. Basically, first and foremost, is it going to attract visitors? Is it going to attract heritage visitors? Because that's, like, again, the umbrella over the entire program of heritage areas. Will the project fulfill the goals of your organization and the Mountain Maryland Gateway of the West? So that's a question for your organization, a question for our organization. And when we're reviewing the grants, we're gonna be asking, as a grants committee, does this fit Mountain Maryland Gateway of the West, and is it going to benefit our visitors? And then, does the project easily speak to our heritage area themes and goals? Our goals or our themes were set up purposely to be very broad. So historic recreation, think about how much that covers in Garrett County. Historic transportation, transportation is very deep in this county and touches a lot of our county. So culture, uniqueness, and man and nature, those are very, very broad themes. And they were purposely designed to be broad because we want to, anything at all that's going to attract a heritage area tourist, we want to be able to support and fund and provide resources for. So that's why those were planned to purposely be kind of broad. Okay, our evaluation criteria. So I have to take my glasses off to see that. Okay, so these are, for the most part, what we go through as a grants committee when we're reviewing the applications when they come in. So obviously we have to make sure it's a local jurisdiction or it's a nonprofit. Is the proposal consistent with our interpretive themes, programs, projects, and activities in the Heritage Area Management Plan? We just kind of touched on those a little bit. Does it utilize collaborative partnerships? Most all of our projects do, just by nature, because everybody kind of works together, and it's kind of a natural thing for us. Does it enhance tourism by visitors and residents? Does it leverage other funding and or resources? You have a match. So if it's all, if you're using all in kind, then it's leveraging resources. I will say it's looked upon favorably to have a little bit of both. The old term, having skin in the game. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get thrown out if everything is in kind for your match, but it is favorably looked upon if somebody is putting up a little something. So just telling that for sake of the grant. Does it demonstrate ability of the applicant to initiate, administer, and complete project within proposed timeframe, including the submission of the final report? Again, that seems like a no-brainer, but I mean, I'm sending emails out, hey, where's your report? And if we do, our timeframe is a little bit shorter because they're small grants. So like I was explaining with that, the rotating cycle, you know, if somebody doesn't get their application in and we don't approve it until October, you know, then, you know, you still have to expend your funds by May.
Mhm.
So you're kind of cutting yourself short, and we do have applicants every year in that boat. So that's why, you know, if a request comes into me, you know, October, November, then that question comes into play where I'm going, are you sure you can fulfill everything in that time frame? So not as important right now because we're at the beginning of the cycle, but as we move through, that becomes more of a question. And then applicant or project location is within a target investment zone. That used to be a requirement. Now it's just looked at favorably. And pretty much all of Garrett County is a target investment zone. So it's not as much of a big deal for us. And then my little thing is covered there, but I can tell you that says project must not begin before the award is announced. So you just can't, like, if you had a project that you're currently working on and you say, hey, we'll get a mini grant to finish this, you can't use what you purchased a month ago, even though it's the same project, against the grant.
Okay,
So say you bought professional photography off somebody that you're going to use for, this is just an example.
Mhm.
You wouldn't be able to use that against the grant, even though it's part of the project because it was after, or it was purchased before. Yeah. So, and we do run across that sometimes. And then I just mentioned numerous times throughout this conversation, our heritage area themes, and why they were created in such a broad sense. And, you know, we'll go over those a little bit, but I think they're kind of self-explanatory. You know, our transportation, Indian Trails, Railroad Paths, waterways, historic national road. I don't have to tell you guys from the Historical Society how important historic transportation is for this county. Of course, we have the B&O, the restored B&O. We have played many funding roles with that building and some of the stuff there. The Castleman River Bridge, you know, from one end to the other, we have signs of historic transportation in this county. Our historic recreation, again, I mean, just look at the pictures. It's kind of what put us on the map. Again, I don't want to be, you know, I know you guys know all this. So you have a good understanding of these themes that we have designed. And culture uniqueness. So this one can be a little misunderstood sometimes, so I will go into it a little bit, but it covers a lot of our agricultural history and, you know, our barn quilts and our Appalachian background. All of those things kind of fall under this theme. And a lot of things, you know, this is one of those themes that we can kind of fit things into usually that people might not think they qualify. And then lo and behold, they do. And then man and nature, you know, we have the Cranesville swamp. We have, you know, Muddy Creek Falls. We're on the Eastern Continental Divide. You know, it's just, it kind of encompasses our county. So those four themes make up our heritage area, and your grant has to fit into one of those themes or multiple themes. A lot of times they fit into multiple themes. This is just, I just kind of have this up here to share, you know, this is certainly not a comprehensive list of applicants and grantees that we have funded, but it gives you a good idea of who we work with and the kind of projects that we are funding. So I think every township is listed there. Friends of New Germany, that's a good example of a partnership. So no, they're a nonprofit. Oh, no, I was thinking they were for profit and partnered with the state park, but that's not, I don't know that I have anybody up there that did do that, actually. Yeah, I think these are all either nonprofits or jurisdictions. So anyhow, you see Mountain Fresh Growers, the Barn Court Association, all the townships, state parks, Yeah. I'm sure everybody in here knows all of this, all of those organizations.
A hypothetical, we
Sure.
just finished a project on George Washington Trail.
Okay.
It was $3,500. We actually wound up, the county provided a significant portion of that money. We did a very small portion of it.
Mhm.
Could we have partnered with the Garrett County Commissioners and put up, well, it wouldn't have made any, well, could have cut down on what we did or what the county did, maybe.
So you can't match state funds with, is that what you're asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So our grant requires a private or another partner. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's fine.
yes, yeah. So a couple examples of projects that we funded. Obviously, that's an interpretive panel at New Germany State Park. Again, we have these all over the county. I'm sure you've seen umpteen million of them. People love them though. People love them. And a good project for a mini grant is replacing them, freshening them up. They get worn out. And you can't read them, and people do like and enjoy them.
Yeah.
So as a historical society, I would think that might be something that
We
you
have some of
guys.
the dirtiest ones in the
Yeah.
county.
No, I was not insinuating that.
No,
Dick.
I'm just stating this.
Well, I mean, it is Garrett County. Everything's, it's tough. It's tough. Endaline Bookstore, we funded their rack card. That's a obvious marketing grant that we provided for them. The Bar and Court Association, we funded a podcast for them. And we have podcasts on our website. This is one of them. Town of Oakland, we funded their town display, their township display. Grantsville A&E District, we just funded an art project last year for the National Road Festival. So that falls under project. Yeah. So programming, we fund a lot of programming that falls under project. Celtic Festival, I mean, if we gave out frequent flyer to awards, the Celtic Festival would get it. But you know what? They're utilizing their resources. They've been able to do a lot of great things, new programming and add things to the festival, and a lot of it has been from heritage money. So
Okay.
nothing wrong with that. Acknowledgements. So anything that we fund, we want our logos to be present. If it is something like a program, then we would just ask for a verbal acknowledgement during the program. Say if we were funding hypothetically the banjo, fiddle, and mandolin, we would ask that at some point the announcer or whatever make mention to our funding contributions. So if it is something in print that you are funding, we ask that we see that before it goes to print, and we just make sure our logos are the right logos and they haven't been flip-flopped. And I've seen that where I'm like, that's backwards. And that's just as simple as an email to me. Hey, this is done. Can you look at it? It's not a big deal. And then reporting documents, again, our grants are relatively small, so this doesn't tend to be too enormous of a job. Proof of expenditures and proof of payments. Credit card statement is fine, invoice is fine, and bank statement, check, credit card statement. That's your standard kind of things. Now, this slide I probably should update, but I will mention, since we have added the in-kind. So we have the hourly value of a volunteer. I don't know it off the top of my head. Do you know it off the top of your head? Is it $32 or something like that? I don't know. We know it. We just don't know it. We just don't remember it. But anyhow, yeah, but we can get that to you. And we also have a timesheet that you can use. So if neighbor Bob has a tractor and he offers to come over and get the property ready for a sign, and he's volunteering that time, just it's handwritten. I worked this many hours for Dick Potts, and then we put the value on it, and that's what you would submit on your grant. And it's Garrett County. We have a lot of that. We have a lot of people willing to donate their time, and if 84 Lumber provides you lumber for an interpretive panel, then you just get the invoice from them. And it would just, you would just submit it as in kind. Oh, and there I am.
Oh, there you are.
I hate that picture. Anyhow, again, it's all local. Everything is with these grants are all local. I'm a phone call away, I'm an email away. And then on our website, garrettheritage.com, the guidelines that we've printed you, the application and more, details that I've just gone over are posted there, as well as eventually this recording will be up that you can print it off or do whatever, you want to do with it. So that's it in a nutshell. Do you have any, you asked me questions while we were going, but do you have any other questions or anything?
So within Garrett County Historical Society, we actually have 3 museums,
Right.
Grantsville, and then the 2 downtown.
Mhm.
So 1 mini grant per the Historical Society, or
Mhm.
each museum could apply?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, absolutely. And to expand on that answer, if the Historical Society, if you guys in Oakland, the Historical Society, if you had 2 projects that you wanted to fund, you can ask me for as many grants as you want.
okay.
Doesn't mean you'll get them, because if it's competitive, we're gonna be like, okay, the Historical Society is really pushing it. No, but we would absolutely consider multiple from, and we do have a lot of grants come in that, because of the cash match and the in-kind, they'll take a big project and they'll piece it because they can't afford the cash and in-kind all in one year. So they'll go, okay, we're gonna do phase 1 this year.
That
And
also
then-
falls under the completion by date. So I can't do my dream project in 1 year.
Right.
But
So when you wrote the grant, if it was a bigger grant or a bigger project that you knew you were gonna try and do in phases, you would just write the grant as such,
okay,
so that you would let us know that, like, we're gonna try and get to this point this year or with this grant.
so we're coming back next year.
Right, and if we get that done, yeah, now if you go that route, I can tell you the grants committee is going to say, do you have other resources, funding resources in mind? Because they're gonna want to know that you're gonna be able to finish it.
Exactly.
So I would just
Okay,
give you advice that if you ever did that, provide as much information in your grant application as you can, so that we can see this is a viable project. Even though it might take them 3 cycles, it's going to be viable. And at the end of the day, it's going to come to fruition.
Right.
So,
And
yeah,
be sure on that specifically that in kind is sort of detailed out, so you see the
yes.
trajectory on that.
Yes, so if you have somebody who's going to provide in-kind services for the extent of the project, I would ask that individual, can you provide me in writing that you're committed to this project to the end?
Okay,
So that,
yeah, just makes sense.
it's not a contract, they're not liable for it, but it's just an in-kind
Mhm.
obligation that, like, yeah, I'm in this to the end, and I'm gonna see it through, kind of thing. Yeah. So, we have, I'm not on that slide, the Mountain Laurel Garden Club last year funded new gardens out at San Juan State Park. And that's the boat they were in. They have a big plan for this, it's going to be beautiful when they're done. All these gardens and all these interpretive panels explaining the native flowers and all this stuff. But they couldn't tackle it. They're a volunteer club with like 5 people. So they couldn't tackle it all at once. So they're doing it in sections. They basically took the park and divided it up into sections and said, we're going to do this section this year. We're going to do. So that's a good example. They're handling it that way. And I think that's a great way to handle it, because it doesn't, in that case, their project doesn't look undone. No one else that's there reading their interpretive panels and enjoying the flowers has any idea that there's 3 missing,
Yeah,
so that they approached it really well.
Okay.
It's a good way to handle it. So, yeah. So I hope we can fund a project for you and help you out with something. And
gonna sit down, we're gonna start talking.
Yeah,
and
that's-
See, you know,
It's where you start.
where we start and see what kind of thoughts we have. This is good.